All right, it is time for TJRS, Thursday, October 17th. Fall is here, sports fans, as we feel it in the morning. I think once again, John, we went from summer to about 80-something down to about 40 right overnight. We got a great show today, jam-packed with all kinds of fun stuff, Commanders, NFL, Riggo, old school, and with that and a whole lot more, here's Riggo.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Todd. Listen, Todd, I had something happen over the weekend. It didn't happen to me, obviously, but something I feel compelled to talk about a little bit. I had a really good friend of mine. In fact, he was on our show when I used to do it at a local radio station here, and they had the John Riggins show here locally. I don't know if you remember him. Lee Edwards, does that name ring a bell?
Yes.
He was he built engines, and he was an International Hot Rod Association driver way back when. Well, he passed away early Sunday morning, and I have to bring this. The reason I have to say this, first of all, I'm so sorry to hear that he had passed. But Lee was such a great guy, and he was such. You don't find many guys like that because he was an actual world champion twice in 77 and 78. I don't recall the division that he ran in, and then after he got out of that, he built engines, and he built a lot of drag racing engines. He also built for truck pulls and all that stuff. The guy was, I think, a mechanical genius.
Where's he from?
Well, he actually was from Calverton, Virginia is where he lives now. But he was, I can't think of the town, it's just down south on 29 between Warrenton.
So local guy.
Yeah, exactly. He's a local guy. Anyway, he was the thing that made Lee so unique. And he was, when I say this, I say this with all humility, he was as good at what he did as I ever was at what I did.
Wow.
That's the kind of, I never got to see his, and it's a niche sport really. NASCAR took off about 20 years ago, but the International Hot Rod, there's another Hot Rod Association. It's a niche sport. That there's so
Dirty
many
Dan Gartlett's, that's what I remember.
Exactly, and Shirley Cha-Cha Muldowney.
Right, there's a couple of names.
Well, Lee actually, because Garlitz used to run a big block Chrysler, I think, and somehow Lee kind of got excited about drag racing. This is back when he was a kid. And then, of course, he just had that natural aptitude. And the great thing, and he was an unbelievable driver. He taught me, most people wouldn't know this. They don't teach you this in driver's ed. When he pulled up to a stop sign, he put automatic transmission, he always put it in neutral. Why? Because particularly in the summertime, your transmission just heats up, and all that heat ain't good. Your transmission will last a lot longer. And the other thing is how he used his brake pedal. He had this old Chevy pickup truck, which I think was probably like a 73, 74. He had the original brake pedal on it, and you couldn't tell that it didn't just come. In other words, most brake pedals, you wear them off smooth on one side.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying the guy, he really had a lot going on. And
so he taught you some driving maneuvers?
Yeah, well, not maneuvers necessarily, but he gave me some, advice on how to preserve your vehicle, basically, and that's what, like I said, that's what he did for a living. But the thing that really separated him was all this time, and I've known Lee since basically the strike season where the team that year won the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. I met him that year when Ron Saul, former teammate of mine, knew him because his brother was a drag racer, and he knew Lee because Lee was so well known around the country. Anyway, we went out there and I was introduced to him, and then later, and so he and I, so that's been over 40 years. Yeah. And we did a lot of things. I went to Alaska bear hunting one time, and we did a lot, and I'd go to his truck pulls and all this stuff. But what was really amazing is I was John Riggins, you know what I mean? And Lee, in his own right, had that same.
He was Lee Edwards.
He was Lee Edwards. That's right. And you would never, ever know it. He was the most humble guy, never, ever talked about anything that he'd done, never bragged. I mean, it was just like, well, obviously he'd been one of those guys. I said, wait a second. There's only room for one of those guys.
It's like, you want to race by foot or by car?
Yeah, well, it had been, with me, obviously we know what that had been. But yeah, that was the thing that was so amazing about Lee. And the other thing is, as far as people go, when you find somebody that always goes for the laugh and has a sense of humility, you found yourself, that's a find, because there's not a lot of those folks around. And Lee, I'm going to miss the hell out of you because you were that guy. So anyway.
Wow. Good stuff, John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, and the other thing is now, I don't know, it's kind of hard to follow that, well, I'm not going to try to follow it because, it is what it is. So,
well, I'll tell you what. Let's go to George Wallace, who's going to join us here and give us the latest on what's going on with the Commandos and the Commanders. And we'll do a quick recap of last week and look ahead to this big games against Carolina. All right, let's welcome in our guy, George Wallace, Sports Director, WTOP, and get the latest from what's been going on at Ashburn with the Commanders. A quick recap of last week and looking ahead to this big weekend, John.
Yeah, George, I'll tell you what, I'm always, I'm not an X's and O guy. I'm a running back. I don't think running backs, any of them, are ever X's and O's guys. But I'm always kind of in tune to the team. And you've been out to the park or you've been around the players. After the loss on Sunday, tough loss, I'm always curious how the reaction is and what the mood in the locker room is. Do you have any idea at this point how they feel about themselves?
I think, and for me, it's a positive thing, John, because, you could look at this team at the beginning of the year and say, all right, if you lose to the Ravens by a touchdown, that's a very positive thing going into the year. But the fact that they don't want to hear anything about moral victories. They don't care how close they were. They're mad that they lost the game. And I imagine that is a good thing to hear from a fan's perspective, from a coach's perspective. So, yeah, they're upset that they let too many opportunities get away and that they feel like they should have won the game. So I think for this organization, that is a big step because, as you know and I know in the past, guys would have been like, sorry, I had 2 touchdowns. I don't care. We lost by 7. We're okay, whatever, so what? But these guys were mad, and I think that is a positive sign. The leaders on this team, even the young guys, are taking following the leaders on this one and realizing that yeah, okay, great, we played the reigning MVP close, and that's good, but we feel like we should have won and we're upset. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I do too. I was going to say too that when you look at the game itself and looking ahead and once again projecting on the team and where they are. It gets strange at times like this, and it sounds to me like their minds are right. But a lot of times, a game like Sunday's game becomes a trap game because you're playing an opponent that is so bad that you just kind of, and you've just come off a loss, and you're kind of, it can go one of two ways. I have to believe, if I had to put money on it, I would think they're going to come out here and just, storm the Carolina Panthers.
I can't believe you beat me to the T word, man. I actually had that written down. It's the trap. Riggo shoots and scores.
That's not an X's and O's. That's not X's and O's. That's just kind of what I've heard the term so many times over the years.
The sweet action's been rubbing off.
The coach would always go, "There's a trap game." I'm going, I didn't know what a trap game was till I was told, so it wasn't any invention of mine. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess that is my question, because I think in the past, yes, 100% trap game. But I really think, and I'm giving these guys benefit of the doubt until they prove me wrong, that this mindset of this team is different. And I don't think they're going to allow themselves to come out and look at this 1-5 record and say that we've got it. We've seen this so many times with this organization. And again, maybe it's just me waiting for the other shoe to drop, but I really think that this team has its head on straight. I think this coaching staff and the players in the locker room are not going to allow that to happen. I totally think that this mindset is different, because I would imagine as a player, it's easy to fall into that, right? Looking at
I was just saying that, what happens is that you come that close, you can overthink it, really, like a lot of times happens to people, and you start brooding about, damn it, if we'd only done this and we were so damn close, and you're focused on that all week, and you're in the rearview mirror. It's out ahead of you is where it's got to be, and this is where the coaches really come in, and I think Dan Quinn, I think that he's got, he's aware of that, and I think that he'll head that off at the pass if he notices any signs that these guys are kind of moping around, trying, not being able to get over the win and thinking of what we could have had, be 5-1,
right?
Instead of going, hey, you're 4-2. Who in the hell thought you were going to be 4-2 at this point in the season?
Nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would imagine.
Well, I did. I thought they'd be 4-2.
Hey, Pinocchio.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I would imagine Joe Gibbs was the best at this, right? Every team, Joe, you guys play was the best team that was going to win the Super Bowl. He always used to.
Well, yeah, but that goes the other way. But that goes the other way, George. After a while, it's kind of like, Joe, please, No.
They are who we thought they were.
I can only suspend my reality so much. This team stinks. They are awful in every phase of the game.
Joe?
Offense, defense, special teams, coaching staff, owner probably. I mean, they're a mess.
Riggo's like, I expect to be smoking a cigarette sitting on the sideline by halftime, Joe.
Basically, that's correct. That's exactly right. So, yeah, no, you bring up a good point. It is, but yeah, and that's exactly what, Joe did do a great job. But like I said, I mean, sometimes you did have to sit back there and kind of go, well, okay, Joe, the young guys will buy it, but I don't think some of us older guys will.
Hey, George, a couple of things on the personnel front, because we've talked about the coaching staff, the game planning, all the wonderful things that are happening here. But now injuries are a big part of every season, right? Going into the game against the Ravens, and we knew that the biggest question mark was going to be the defense, right? They couldn't shut them down. The Ravens, they are who we thought they were offensively for sure. So Jonathan Allen out for the season with the torn pec, big loss. What's glaring, and of all the defense, is clearly the secondary, which is amazing in the sense that Jamin Davis, former number one,
Right.
Emmanuel Forbes, last year's number one. These were healthy scratches, John.
Yeah.
First-round draft picks, and they can't get on the field. And that secondary is pretty bad right now. I mean, Zay Flowers, he got tired. That kid had to be tired at halftime. I think he had 100 yards at the half. But that is their glaring weakness, and now with Jonathan Allen gone. So what are they looking at on the personnel side of things? What are they thinking about? Because there's some pretty big holes there.
It is, and it's kind of, and Dan Quinn was actually asked about that on Wednesday about Emmanuel Forbes and having conversations with him, and he basically was like, yeah, you have a conversation and say, it's not going to be like this forever. You have a chance to get back and just keep your head up. And that's fine. That's easy to say. But if you're Forbes, you struggled last year. You struggled this year. I mean, Benjamin St. Juste had an awful game Sunday in the secondary. So for me, that's still the biggest issue. And losing Jonathan Allen, granted, he wasn't having a great year. We didn't call his name much. But up front, now you're going to get Johnny Newton, the second-round pick. He's going to have to fill shoes in there for sure. Jean-Baptiste also went on injury reserve. So I think you're going to see a move.
Jean-Baptiste is on injury reserve as well?
Yeah.
So that's who would start, and he was starting instead of Jamin Davis, correct?
Correct.
So
yeah, they have some shoes to fill. So they got the trade deadline coming up. So I would imagine they may not be really, really aggressive, but you could see something going here in the next couple of weeks.
Well, this is where you look to your general manager, because at the beginning of the season, I believe he said, and I forget who I was talking to, but that, we like who we have, the people they brought in. And I think there was, close to 30 or 40 new players. So where I'm going with this is, in the old days, I remember during the Super Bowl runs of the actually all the way through the 80s, and for me to be able to speak to it would be like from 81 to 85. Seemed like when somebody went down, it was what they always used to say, next man up.
Right.
And by golly, more often than not, the next man up, there was not a very little drop in productivity. So I'm just thinking that, this is where you find out, about how the team was put together, because all of a sudden, if you get a big drop off, and the other thing is, I have to agree with you. Jonathan, he's one of the main leaders of the team, but he wasn't really having that kind of a season for the most part. But still, that part will be missed. But maybe the actual level of play, it just might level itself out when the new guy comes in.
Yeah, I just cannot get over. And again, this wasn't on their watch, but they are bringing in free agent cornerbacks. They're dusting off guys from Fuller and guys that haven't been in the league for a couple of years. And your number one draft pick, wasn't he 15th overall last year, Emmanuel Forbes? And this kid can't get on the field?
Yeah.
What an indictment that is. It's rare you see somebody fall this fast as a number one pick, and when they desperately need you. They desperately need people at that position.
I was going to say, one possible way out of this, and he'll already be there at halftime if they're struggling mightily, throw a uniform on number 28.
Daryl.
Oh, wait a second. He could put it on, because It's his number. I was going to say they're retiring the number.
You know, they did not tell him all the stipulations on this particular game. That Darrell, here's the good news: we're retiring your number. We got a Darrell Green sweep, but you're going to need to play in the second half.
Right. You're going to get a pair of shoes. You're going to get shoulder pads and a helmet. And hey, good luck, buddy.
Hey, and not honorary captain, you're team captain.
You are.
And that's it. If he ever wanted to make a comeback, can they unretire a number? I don't know. Well, I guess for him they could.
Interesting.
Yeah, that would work.
George, something else. I don't recall Brian Robinson being as dinged up last week on the injury report and everything that he did not play last week. So what's the status with him? Because I think that threw everybody for a loop by Saturday and knowing that he didn't play on Sunday.
Yeah, so it was funny talking to him yesterday. He basically said, Dan Quinn and Adam Peters made the call. Like, you're going to rest this week, and we need you for the long haul. And someone asked him, so you could have played, right? And he looked at us like, you guys are crazy. Of course I could have played. So they made that call. You could also, and the knee was bothering him. I mean, he sat out the second half of the Browns game after his 2 touchdowns. And for me, at that game's over. That's fine. Do you think maybe they're going into the Ravens game realizing that it's a long shot to win it, and you want to keep your guy healthy going against the Ravens defense that could bang you up?
Which was number one against the rush.
Yeah. You could also argue this week, too. The 1-5 Panthers aren't that great up front, but he's dying to get out there. He was out on the practice field on Thursday as well. So I think he's going to play, and he didn't like sitting out, but he did say, he goes, look, those guys know what's better, and then I'm fine with it. So I think that that was pretty interesting that he would have played. He could have played, but I think that they were being safe with the knee, because I guess, a running back, that knee could linger all year long, and maybe they think, you know what, we got a shot at this thing, so let's be smart.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I don't remember Bobby Beathard or Joe Gibbs coming to me and saying, hey, big guy, we're going to set you down this week. And, of course, I would have reacted the same way as Brian Robinson did.
Gosh darn it.
Yes. Yeah. You mean I'm going to have to be on the bench with the oxygen tank? I mean.
No, you don't even have to be on the bench with the oxygen tank. You don't even have to dress.
Oh, okay.
This gets better.
Now, I was going to say, it never happened to me. I'd have to pull. Yeah, I was going to say, I'd have to pull my own shots. I went to them and told them, this looks like a pretty easy game to me. Why don't we just, if you need me, I'll dress. But only if you need me.
Riggo rules.
In case of fire or case of emergency, break glass. That's all I can
Number
tell
44, dust it off.
Yeah.
All right, to wrap this up here, trap game. John, what do you think the guys in Vegas in this particular game? What do you think the number is?
I'm going to say it's got to be 7 or more.
It is -8. It is the largest line of the week.
Is that right?
The largest line of the week, yeah, because there's a lot of even matchups, like the 1-5 New England Patriots playing the 1-5 Jacksonville Jaguars. We're giving the UK some great football in person. By the way, they are getting some shitty games, but yeah, it's the biggest number on the board this week. It is a proverbial trap game. A good team needs to take care of business. You got all the hype with Darrell's announcement, the retirement of the jersey. It's homecoming alumni for some of the folks that'll be out there. Should be a gorgeous day for football. So basically, I'm saying there are no excuses.
None whatsoever.
Zero.
And I think the best thing going into this is the play of the quarterback and the fact that he so far has been unaffected by all the publicity that has been coming his way because obviously he's played so well. I think to me that's a big part of it, because sometimes and we've seen it happen before. A guy's ego gets ahead of him, but I don't think that's happening with Jaden Daniels. He's got his head screwed on right. Anyway,
I agree, and it's interesting, and just hearing him each week, guys, it really is. You're just waiting for him to get into that. And I even asked him on Wednesday about all those Pepsi Rookie of the Weeks that he won again this week, and he says my mom loves those things. Does for her. Basically, for me, they'd be in a box because that's not the biggest thing we're after, kind of thing. So he's saying all the right things. He is acting like a seasoned veteran. I think that is, look, a lot of people want to compare this guy to 2012. This is the huge difference. Right?
I would think so. Yeah.
Please don't.
I mean, back in 2012, it was
I didn't say the name.
There is no I in team, but I've always known there's an M and an E.
And we're going to finish what we started.
That was rich.
Some of those in the know Oh my gosh! Are you trying to glam onto somebody else and clout? Oh. My God, that's pathetic in my opinion.
Well, it's only like 10 years after the fact. It's good.
Let's go with 12.
Well, I guess I could say we want to add on to what we had started back in the. Right. Well, now we're going back into light years.
George, thanks as always.
Yes, George. Thank you.
And we'll check in with you next week, big guy.
All right, George.
Appreciate it, guys.
See you next week. Thank you.
All right, John, other NFL news and notes from around the league. The fall owners meeting was earlier this week in Atlanta. They had some business on the books, and Tom Brady was unanimously approved as a minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders.
What? I don't know. I mean, good for Tom Brady, but I know he's making buku. He's making more money. He's making more money broadcasting than he did playing.
Yes, $375 million for 10 years is his Fox deal. Now, think about this, John. So basically, he has a business partner by a gentleman by the name of Tom Wagner. He and Wagner will have a 10% equity stake, and also one of his former teammates, Richard Seymour, is also a part of the transaction, a minority portion of it, if you will. And Brady will personally hold a 5% stake, which, on a franchise and in the valuations in the, $7-8 billions of dollars, that's a lot of cash.
That is.
And so, but here has been the conflict and how they were trying to work around. Now, when I read this, and I've read it about 3 times because I still find it kind of stunning in today's broadcasting world, yet knowing how the Shield and the owners and everything's positive, right? Here in Wally World, Disney World, it is a wonderful world, and it's all great news. So they have special rules for Tom Brady because he is a broadcaster. You're supposed to be calling the football games. John, here are the conditions for him owning that stake in the team now. So with Fox Sports, so as a team co-owner and a broadcaster, the restrictions, a prohibition on basic TV analyst functions. He cannot attend broadcast production meetings with coaches and players. Can't watch practices.
That makes sense.
Not allowed at team facilities. And here's the kicker. Cannot publicly criticize game officials and other teams.
Yeah, that would.
Now, what is your job?
Well, to me,
Fox.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
How is that not a major conflict of interest?
And how it's almost like he's in a situation where he's trying to do 2 things at once. And, in other words, if you're going to do the broadcasting, that's fine. It looks to me like you're going to be well compensated for that. But then you want to own a piece of a team. Everything you say, and based on going back to Pete Rozelle, it's all about protecting the image, the badge, the shield. We got to protect the image of the game. This gets kind of weird. I mean, and first of all, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to comprehend that you'd want to, do what he's doing. And if you're, like you said, if you're, what is it, CBS? No, it's not.
He's Fox.
Fox, I'm sorry. If you're Fox, you're kind of going, well, all of a sudden now that you're owning, he's kind of breached that contract in a way because he's now done a deal with a team in the NFL that precludes him from actually doing what you said, the TV duties that he's being paid by Fox to do, right?
Well, it
seems like a contradiction.
100%, because it's like, I want to be a downhill ski racer, and I also want to play professional football, okay? No. This could lead to that, which could do this. You have no integrity in your broadcasting crew now because he's going to be whistling zippity-doo-dah up everybody's tuchus because he can't criticize the officials, can't criticize any other teams or the players because he's a part owner.
Yeah, for them to do a call on the sidelines with guys inbound, out of bound, pick whatever the call is, I guess he can't even say that's a ticky-tack call or whatever. It's just like to me, like I said, there's a problem here. And I got to believe Fox can't be too happy about this.
Well, I believe Fox sold their soul because the legend and the branding is Tom Brady, right? He is Mr. Football. Mr. Football.
But he's got to deliver, and I don't know. I haven't watched any of his broadcasts yet.
He's fine.
I will tell you another guy that was the exact same thing when he came out, I believe, was Joe Montana. And I think Joe tried it for a while and didn't work out so well for him.
Well, because too many guys are vanilla, and you got it. It's a lot of hard work. The fact that he can't sit in these production meetings and do a lot of what is required.
Sit with the coaches the night before the game and go through
that's where
the
you
head
get
coach.
the insight and all the stuff. I mean, hell,
he can't go to the practices like on Saturday morning or whatever.
Yeah, you can't watch practices.
Well, that's my point.
I mean, John, you go back in the stories you used to tell, when Howard Cosell or Madden and Summerall would come and sit with you guys in the shed and otherwise.
Yeah.
He's
not a big drinker, though, so that probably won't affect him. I don't think he is anyway.
How about some tofu? I just find this, but it's like in today's environment, your brand, your personal brand, I think the average football fan is not jumping up and down about him being in the booth. It's Tom Brady. You either love him or you hate him. He's fine in the booth. There's nothing wonderful about it. When Romo came out a couple years ago, everybody fell in love with Tony because he was so prescient in his ability to forecast the future and see what was coming up. But he brought something to the table.
Right.
And
But even at that, I don't know. I mean, people watch the game, and when you explain there's a million ways to do it, I've always felt like when I did a little bit of this stuff, that when you start getting into, that's a zone coverage, and you'll see this is a too deep zone, and the quarterback, and I'm going, look, there's quarterbacks that sit in meeting rooms for years, and they still can't figure out what a too deep zone is. You're just going to give it a flyby to the casual fan that's watching, and he's going to come away and be down at the coffee shop telling everybody, well, they blew the play. That was a too deep zone, and the cornerback couldn't get back. I mean, I'm talking about stuff that I don't even know about either.
Well, we got a little film breakdown that you did a little later. You were actually at the forefront of this. You might want to tap the brakes on this for a second here. You fell right into my trap, Riggo. Into my trap.
Oh, so I'm playing a trap game.
Now, also coming out, the Dallas Cowboys get their ass whipped.
I couldn't believe the score.
Whipped on Sunday. I mean, it was brutal.
49-7 or something?
47-9 by the Detroit Lions. John.
And it was at their stadium.
It was at Big D, the big national game, and it was over at halftime. Third quarter, by the fourth quarter, you're like, hey, let's go out to dinner. You did not need to watch this game. It was that bad.
I'm curious to know what the stands were like. How many people were left in the stands? Like you said, at the end of the third quarter, I got to believe people were packing it up and heading home.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, this is the second time this has happened to them at home. The Saints ripped them, hung 40 on them, I believe, the second game of the year. It was the second or third game because they're 3-3 now. So the Saints waxed them, put up over 40. And we said it before. There's something going on internally here because there's a lot of bad body language. There's a separation between Dak Prescott and what's going on with CeeDee Lamb and these guys that got the big contracts.
My guess is Mike McCarthy.
Well, there's a rumor of that. So Jerry Jones, Jerry's never met a microphone that he didn't love. And he has his own radio show in Morning Drive in Dallas.
He was pretty calm after the game.
Oh, well, he's not on this. And
I was just going to mention that.
So in setting this up, this is his weekly appearance. And because the fans, everybody's outraged. They are absolutely fed up with it. And
they've been stumbling around for years.
Years wandering in the desert. So Jerry goes on the radio show, and there's three guys on the radio. Now, this is what I've done for the bulk of my career in working with owners in various sports, hiring guys like you, Joe Jacoby, Dexter Manley, going down the road, programming radio stations, and it's must-listen-to radio, right? So here are the three guys, and we're going to take a listen, and I'm going to set this up for you.
Jerry, 1970, a little different from this past off-season in Bill.
Now, that 1970 reference, just for perspective, Jerry's already a little prickly. They've been in the interview for a couple of minutes here, and they're questioning, you've got these holes. You knew you had these holes in the offseason, and you really didn't address your personnel issues. And Jerry starts reflecting back, all the great things I've done in the past and this and that. If you guys want to go all the way back to 1970, so that's the reference.
But he wasn't a coach.
No, he wasn't. He's just saying without the history of the franchise.
All
right, so they get into
the team we're talking about today, which there was a lot of criticism that you guys didn't add, didn't spend, and don't add and don't spend, and are not aggressive enough with some of the problems that are still haunting the Cowboys today that we see play out on the field. That's the point of talking about the offseason.
Oh, I remember those criticisms very well. Okay, so what?
Are they playing out to be accurate?
What's your point? What's your point?
My point is, it seems like
Listen, let me tell you what I'll do. Let me tell you what I'll do about it. I will let us sit down and look at the decisions we've made over the last several years. Okay? I'll look at it. Now, if you think I'm interested on a damn phone call with you over a radio and sitting here and throwing all the good out with the dishwater, you have got to be smoking something over there this morning. I'm not. And I really don't, and I don't even want our listeners to listen to me, to talk about, this is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job.
Let's pause it there for a second.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is he running for president or something on a third ticket here somewhere?
Jerry. You can start hearing it in his
King
voice.
Jerry.
The neck is getting a little prickly.
Yes, he was.
Here we go.
Definitely.
Well, my job is to ask
You'll
why.
get a job, or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man.
Jerry, we're trying to figure out why the team is.
I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. You're not going to figure out what the team is doing right or wrong. If you are, or any 5 or 10 like you, you need to come to this meeting I'm going to today. There are 32 teams here. You're geniuses.
Jerry,
Okay. Y'all really think you're going to sit here with a microphone and tell me all of the things that I've done wrong and without going over the rights?
Well,
now, listen, we both know we're talking to a lot of great fans and a lot of great listeners. And I am very sorry for what happened out there Sunday. I'm sick about what happened Sunday. Now, I'm not...
Jerry.
Now, that's the essence of it. He goes on for a while. He threatens the guys with their jobs.
Yeah, that's going back to Arthur Godfrey.
It's going back to Dan Snyder. And I'll tell you a little story.
I mean, Arthur Godfrey actually fired a guy on the air. You know who he was,
yes.
right? The famous radio broadcaster,
yes.
TV. Yeah, he fired a guy over the air. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking, basically, you're right. That's getting a little heavy-handed, isn't it?
Oh.
And you know what the weird thing is that is their job. I mean, if he's not, if he
that
doesn't
is
want,
your job.
If you don't want, as long as it's all patty cake, Jerry's interested. You get down to where the team isn't playing well, and you got to be held accountable. Oh, you ain't going to hold me accountable. Forget about
right.
that. And it's kind of like, well, then, why don't we cancel your show? Because, what, we're just going to come on here. There's a cheerleading. There's fans out there that would like to know these things. They'd like to know where it is, what you're feeling about it. And you're just dismissing it and saying, it's all up here. And I don't have to tell you any of this stuff. That's weak.
Well, Jerry's been shooting his mouth off all off season. And people flat out asked him, said, how about bringing in a general manager? And he goes, you think there's anybody else on this planet that can do what I do with personnel and me and my boys and, going on. So now he is getting excoriated in Dallas. And I mean news anchors, the editorials, they're the billionaire bully. It's like when Jack Kent Cooke with Sharon Pratt Kelly. Remember Jack Kent Cooke? And he went over to Alexandria.
That cooked his deal.
Yeah, and she city. Called him that billionaire bully. Jack Kent cooked, and she said, I think he rubbed her hiney, too. I think, if memory serves me correct.
I believe that might be true.
So Jerry, because usually, he's not that thin-skinned. Usually he can take it or whatever else.
Well,
but
how old
clearly
is he?
This has gotten to him.
How old is he? He's in his 80s.
I think he's...
82, 83?
I believe. I'm going to guess 78 to 82.
Oh, is that right?
Okay, but still.
We'll call him 80.
Whatever. I mean, this is his team and it's on his watch and he can do what he wants. But you don't threaten people's jobs like that. That is their job. People want answers. Everybody's frustrated. To attack the guys because he's obviously in a foul mood or whatever else. Mm-hmm. I will tell you this story that, when we had Red Zebra.
Right.
And I was charged program and operations, ran the Redskins radio network. And John, I had Joe Jacoby on the post game. You were a big part of the station. And I was getting called out to Dan's property in Potomac because
it was like 2 in the morning.
Somebody heard something that might have said something about Dan. So this is like the 4th or 5th game of the season, and I get a call like at midnight from one of his henchmen saying, yeah, we heard Joe Jacoby say something on the post-game show, and he was trashing Dan, and we want the air tapes, and you need to get out here now. And I'm like, what? First off, didn't happen because I'd heard the show and everything else, and they said, we don't care, you get out here. So I'm out at his place at 2 a.m. with his henchmen, and again, this was like fourth-hand knowledge, and they didn't even know what he said. It was misquoted. It was this. It was that. And Joe was doing his job and had said something about ownership, this and that, needs to do this, needs to do that, or whatever, doing his freaking job. And I gave him the tape, and it was relatively benign and innocuous, and they said, fire him.
And I'm guessing alcohol was involved in that. 2 a.m.
You got me. Well, you got me. But we said no. Calmer heads prevailed later that week. But it's the exact same type of behavior of, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And multitude of stories like that and the league had a big concern with him owning these radio stations that there was all kinds of nefarious activity going on through there. He was trying to bypass the salary cap and certain things that were going on. But it's the thin-skinned nature. It's a bad look for ownership. And this is right at the fall ownership meeting. So he clearly gave the fans something to talk about.
Well, it makes you wonder, even if you're the radio station. Now, I don't, obviously, speak to this much better than I can. Obviously, they've sold these. There's advertisers that sponsor this spot when Jerry Jones comes on.
You talk about an exclusive arrangement?
So on the one hand, the responsible thing for the radio station would be to cancel him. But it's a financial and monetary decision for them to make that. Wouldn't it be? Because
you're talking about...
I'm just talking about he crossed the line.
He crossed the line. Right. He crossed the line. But you know how many times I've seen radio stations and TV stations cave to the owners?
Oh,
and it's happened in this town.
My point is what should be done and what will be done.
Exactly.
This town was the worst.
This town was the worst.
As bad as, yeah.
And when those owners picked up the phone, how many of these sportscasters around here?
Up to.
Yes, indeedy. But this fact is that you got access, and very few owners do this, and that's why. But Jerry wants to be the name and the face of this organization and be the guy that's bigger than life. And if you're going to wear the crown, there's the good and the bad, but that's a really horrible look.
That is.
And we'll see what happens. I don't even know who owns that station right now, but if they were to cave, then that's the end of that radio station. But more times,
when you say cave,
fire the guys. Do you know how many times
fire the guys?
Fire the guys in the morning.
I see. I was thinking if they cave the other way and cancel Jones' show.
No, they won't do that.
Well, I know.
They won't do that.
But I'm just saying, and when it comes down to, loyalty and or, where you stand behind your employees, for them to be threatened like that by this guy, would that not be within the realm of what you would call doing the right thing? Would be to say, Jerry, good luck with your team, but we're canceling your show.
You want to bet because most weak-kneed, lily-livered management brought those 3 guys in on the morning and said, hey, guys, maybe the line of questioning. Yep. Start questioning them. And if you listen to the whole thing...
They're getting coached up.
Yeah. And it's unnecessary because they were doing their jobs. Right. I didn't hear anything disrespectful. And he's on the attack. The whole thing is... unfortunately, it's typical, which is why, talking about this Tom Brady thing here, and the fact that you're just going to hear everything's rainbow and lollipops when he's in the broadcast.
Yeah. It ties right in.
What the hell are you going to get out of that? All right, John, I know how much you love film breakdown, really today's film breakdown. And now a big part of it is because what has transpired in the last 20 years is with the advent of Madden football, Madden NFL football, and kids playing video games, that to your point, the average fan and the really hardcore NFL fans and the younger generation, they do know what a two deep zone is and all this stuff now because of Madden and its matchups and it's this, so they literally not even armchair, but they're couch potatoes or bedroom potatoes, and so they have a better idea, or at least they think they do. So you were way ahead of the curve because some years ago you did a little thing called Riggins and Russo in New York City.
Yes, 1998.
And involved a pregame show for the New York Jets, if I'm not mistaken. It was,
correct. Bill Parcells had just gone over to be the coach, and CBS had just gotten the NFL back, so that's why it was on CBS, and we'd come on about, I can't remember, maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning.
So it was you, Chris Mad Dog Russo.
And Phil Simms, and from time to time, well, Phil Simms, he was... I can't remember what Phil's connection was, but he would go out to the training center at Hofstra, and him and Parcells would be there, and we'd have a hookup there, or they would make a comment about the show. I mean, one time, I don't know, maybe we can find it somewhere, but I remember I had this burgundy double-breasted sport coat. It was bench made, right? So it's made to fit you and all that stuff. And Parcells, I love that guy for whatever reason. I don't know, because I don't know him that well. But they're just, he's
an honest broker.
Yes, and he's New Jersey. He's a New Jersey guy. You know,
he's a wise guy.
Yeah, well, wise guy has another connotation.
Well, he's like always cracking.
Yes, exactly. And he said, hey, what'd you do? Get a job as a maitre d'? I couldn't top that. I went, Bill, you got me on that one.
Can be directly attributed to Curtis Martin running the football. And as John shows us in his crash course, it's thanks to a little help from his friends.
Today on NFL Crash Course, we're going to see what it's like to be in the middle of a tuna run of the terrestrial kind. All right, let's get the nut out here on the field.
I like a tuna roll. You're already working the lines in.
I watched this because I think you sent it to me the other day, and I'm going, well, hell, I almost look like I work in television. You know, I wasn't a football player.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a talking head. This football breakdown.
This play is called 38 toss. It's a toss play to the strong side of the formation or the tight end side. Fullback's going to go in motion towards the point of attack. He's going to block the strong side linebacker. The tight end is going to block the defensive end. Now, this is a very key block, and the wide receiver is going to block the strong safety. The tackle is going to pull and kick the corner. Everybody else is going to block the man in front of him. And this is what the play looks like actually when they toss the ball. Everybody picks up their block, and Martin does a great job of running the football. Now here it is what they did last Sunday. Look at Martin. He's got all kinds of daylight out here, but right at the top of your screen, number 80, Wayne Corbett. Look at this. He's got the strong safety and picks up a piece of the free safety. Great job by him. Now here's another play where you're going to see Keyshawn Johnson, number 19, right there on Zach Thomas in the middle of your screen. Great
Keyshawn throwing a block.
He has to block defensive ends from time to time. So you see everybody on Bully's Bill team is private run. They have to earn. All right, Mad Dog, back to you.
What did I say, Private Ryan?
I wonder if the Dolphins win finally put a smile on Phil Parcells' face. Him and Phil Simms are standing by with Jets kickoff. Up next. What's up, guys?
All right, thanks, guys. And, hey, Coach, Curtis Martin's out this week. I figured, hey, why not John Riggins? I think he can still do it.
Well, he was great in his day, Phil, but there's not much tread on that tire. After I tell you, he ran some of it off on the football field. He ran a little off some other place.
Oh, I think you're right there. So, John, it's over. You can't do it anymore, but you still look good. Coach and I will be back at the bottom of the half hour. Everybody stay with us because after this break, there'll be more of Riggins and Russo live.
The Jets recent...
Boom.
Well, what Bill didn't know is that I was a AA fuel and gasser, just like Lee Edwards was talking about earlier in the show. They run racing slicks. There is no tread on a AA fuel gas. They got the big wide tires that smoke when they come out of the hole.
Yeah, right. Bill, no tread.
Of course, I don't know. That was 1999. Yeah, he was probably right. But the tread shortly thereafter. When I left, I honestly believe there was a little bit of tread left. But on the other hand, there was jelly up here. There was nothing. I had tread. Basically, it's like this, Todd. I always say this with running backs or whoever it may be. You know, you got this great machine, right? You really got, everything.
Finely tuned.
You're fast, you're strong, and all that. Super smart. But you can't get. It's all about the transmission. If you can't get the transmission to the tires or to the wheels, you're lost. And by the time that I'd played 14 years in the NFL, my transmission went out. It wasn't the tread on the tire.
Better call AA.
Yeah, exactly.
NCO.
That's the people.
All right, John, we're going to close out this show. We got a few Todd bits for you.
All right.
We're going to close out with the bang
Little,
here.
what do you call them, softballs?
Yeah, and this is some interesting stories, things that I found interesting. So Dateline, Portland, Oregon, last week, police pulled over a 1994 Ford Taurus, John, that they ran the plates on. It was looking kind of funky, and it came back as stolen. So they start searching the drivers, and they find meth. They find drug scales, paraphernalia, a .357, and a bag that actually said, definitely not a bag full of drugs. And inside the bag that was definitely not a bag full of drugs.
Was full of drugs.
Was full of drugs. So
I don't know what to make of that, Todd. I mean, were they just goofing amongst themselves, or did they really think that they was going to find Deputy Dog and he would look at that and go,
look in here.
Exactly. He would just go, nope, nothing here. I mean, it says it right on her. It's funny that you should say that, because I used to go down to Mexico fishing, and I would put fishing rods in a case that it definitely looked like a gun case.
Right.
And I put, I went
definitely
online.
definitely not a gun.
Well, it was basically the same thing. I put a picture of a gun with a circle and a line through it. I pulled it up, printed it up, and put it on my case. And every time they'd come back and they'd go, because I didn't bring it on the plane with me. It wasn't a carry-on. And they'd come in and say, "Is there Mr. Riggins on the plane? Would you please come out?" And sure enough, that bag. It was like they were out ahead because it said no gun. They figured that there is a gun. It's just like, I can't explain it. But it was just recently, I just took the damn things off and said, this ain't doing no good. They're going to look in it anyway. Don't save them. There was fishing rods in there, guys. Sorry you missed it, but I was telling the truth. No gun.
Yeah, that just made me laugh, because let that be a lesson, boys and girls. They will search every place, everywhere.
Yeah. And, that would really work on the border crossings, like in San Diego, Tijuana and all that.
Maybe just put drugs on it, and maybe you go opposite.
That's the opposite way. That's kind of like a friend of mine used to say, out years ago when I was growing up in Centralia, you'd see a lot of one-armed farmers, and the reason was because something would get caught in the corn picker or whatever, and they'd reach in and try and grab it. Next thing you know, the damn corn picker had him, and the arm was gone. And I remember my good friend's dad used to say, well, instead of saying don't put your hand in here, he says, put your damn hand in here, you fool. Then people go, well, no, maybe I don't want to do that. Can't tell them not to.
All right, John, as we all know, everybody knows TJRS, you love the great outdoors, communicating with nature, Mother Nature, animals, the wonderment of the world. So I came across this last week, and I couldn't stop watching it. And what it is, so, especially in today's, we're a couple of weeks out from this political election, and it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. You got, the Democrats that say, all those Republicans are nothing but a bunch of sheep. And then all the Republicans go, all those Democrats are all nothing but a bunch of sheep. Well, look at these sheep. They are sliding down the mountain.
Well, their hooves. I've often wondered when you see like bighorn sheep and desert sheep and those kind of how they move around on the mountains and the rocks, like they got suction pads, on their. See, look at that one. Are they surviving this?
Some are,
and some
aren't.
I'll be darned. God.
So these are Dorper.
What
breed is Dorper?
That's so sad to see. And you see it occasionally walruses. You've seen the one where the walruses go over the side. It's just like heartbreaking, really. And they got no shot.
So that particular breed is out of South Africa. I don't know exactly where that footage is from, but they are raised quite a bit over here as well.
Are you talking about the type of sheep that it is?
Yes.
What was it?
Dorper.
Oh, I haven't heard of
it is
But it's a wild
South
sheep?
African. I forget the blend of sheep that it is, and it's known for its quality of its meat. And,
so it's a domestic animal.
Yes, and it's
well, that explains a little bit here.
but
they don't live in the wild; they've been turned loose.
and it's like
in the
when
wild.
you see these herding dogs. And how one or two dogs can get, hundreds of them to go where they're going to go. And I couldn't take my eyes off of that watching these sheep, because one did it, then the other follows, and it's their mentality.
Right.
And so let that be a lesson. If anybody calls you, you're a bunch of sheep, that's what they're talking about.
That's not good, Todd. Not good. In fact, I think we better call this a day. And it's El Riggo and Toddy, and we are out of here.